Hello, geography students. Um, I'm going to try teaching you guys using this Zoom. I'm going to go ahead and record it though. That way, in case somebody's having a bad connection and you need to get to it at a later date, then this is going to allow you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and record it. Um, Man, I really miss seeing everybody. You guys are like one of the bright spots of my day now. Last year's seventh grade class, they were the curse. You guys are the blessing. Don't tell them I said that. But I really miss you guys and hope everything's going well with you guys. I can't wait to be back in school. My game plan for today, going to give you a bell ringer like we normally would. If you need to do the pause the video and answer the question, then do so. I'm going to give you some notes, show you a video, and then you're going to have a quiz. But now this quiz is basically going to be, you may have to go and do some research. So it's sort of open notes. It's sort of open everything. And in the quiz, you just put the question. Don't type up the question. Just put number one and what the answer is. Okay, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get to this. Okay, slideshow, please work for me, baby. Okay, here we go. Here's the bell ringer. So, question number one, what country has more Buddhists, Sri Lanka or Japan? You're going to have to go look up which one of these places is Sri Lanka or Japan. Just so you know, it's going to be colored and it's probably in pink. This map right here is a map of all the countries that have Buddhists. The darker they are, the more Buddhists they have. So, for example, like Cambodia and I believe that's Thailand. Cambodia and Thailand, they are the two most populated. How do I need to say that? Those two countries have the most Buddhists in the world, followed closely by Myanmar, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka, the little teardrop of an island out here. So basically, what country has more Buddhists, Sri Lanka or Japan? What are three different types of Buddhism? This question is not on the map. I usually ask a couple of other questions, like what country are we looking at here? What country are we looking at here? Feel free to look at these countries on a map. You're probably going to need to know them at some point. We have China here. We got Mongolia here. Like I said, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Laos, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, Vietnam on the side, Indonesia down here. So go research what are three different types of Buddhism. Make sure you spell them correctly. There are some weird names. Make sure you spell them correctly. And then finally, number three for your bell ringer, go find a picture of Buddha. Just type in Buddha and go find a picture. I don't care if it's funny. Make sure it's school appropriate, but find a picture of Buddha, insert that picture into your notes, put it there with this stuff. So pause the video if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and continue on with our stuff for today. All right, Buddhism. It's a religion that is actually started in India. Started in India, Lord, I want to say 6th century BC, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now. I should have maybe been a little bit more prepared, but I've been working on some other stuff. And okay, side note. So it actually starts in India, but it's not going to stay there. There's another religion there, Hinduism, which is extremely popular. So as Buddhism gets started, it's going to want to move away. The Hindus are not going to like the Buddhism and they're going to want to push it out. Muslims are over here to the west and they're not going to like the Buddhism. However, it's going to travel on the Silk Road, get over here to China, and it's going to work its way into Southeast Asia through trade networks along the coastline, and it's going to sort of make its home here in either Asia slash Southeast Asia. And of course, along the way, it's going to change. That's why there are different types of Buddhism, and there's three main different types. Buddhism starts with a guy by the name of Siddhartha Gautama. Yes, you will need to know how to spell that correctly. Go research it up. It's, see if I can annotate it here. Text. It starts with this guy, Sid. Oh, you got to be kidding me. And it may even be in the notes here. I haven't memorized my notes. Siddhartha Gautama. So that's the guy's name. He was a prince. Basically gets a lot of stuff handed to him. But he is going to go about and he's going to see suffering and he's going to want to try to solve this problem. That's what Buddhism is really all about. It's basically, hey, everybody's going to experience suffering. Buddhism is trying to solve the problem of let's stop the suffering. Unlike other religions. All right. So he's going to go on a search for this. And here's how it works. And you're going to watch a video that kind of describes this a little bit, but putting it in my own quick terms here, Buddha was a prince, got everything handed to him on a silver spoon. He'd never seen suffering. This is the legend of the story. He goes out one day with his servant, and while he's out and about in the bustle of life, he sees an old lady. I've put old man, but in reality, I think in legend it was an old lady. She's all wrinkled up, she's not young and beautiful. And Siddhartha's kind of taken aback by this because he's only known pleasure and he's only had good things in his life. And he's like, what's going on? What's wrong with her? And the servant says, hey, that's a old lady. Everybody's going to get old. You're going to get old. Your mom's going to get old. Your dad's going to get old. We all get old. We all get wrinkly. We start sagging and bagging in different places, and it's just going to happen to everybody. And so Siddhartha goes a little bit further and he sees a sick man lying he's got boils and he's all not in good shape. Coughing, spitting up blood, whatever. Well, Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, asks his servant, what's wrong with this guy? He's like, well, that guy's sick. Everybody gets sick. You never know about sick man? You got to be kidding me. Everybody's going to get sick. And don't think that you're going to not get sick because everybody's going to. Well, he goes a little bit further and there's a funeral procession going on. And Siddhartha Gautama, who's only experienced a good thing in his life, asks his servant, what's going on here? And the servant says, that's a dead man. Everybody's going to die. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Your mom, dad, everybody's going to die. And Siddhartha then realizes, wait a second, life has got a lot of suffering and life's not seeming too good. I mean, it's only good because I'm a prince, but how do we solve this problem of suffering for everybody in my kingdom? And how do we get rid of suffering? And he goes a little bit further and sees a holy man. And this holy man seems to be at peace, seems to not be dragged down and doesn't seem to be suffering as the other people. And so then Buddha says, I want that to be my life's work. I want to try to solve this problem of suffering. And I want to probably live my life as a holy man. And that's what he does. As the story goes, he's going to not be what most people think of as a Buddha. I would be interested, and usually in class, I go around and we talk about the different images that people find of Buddha. And typically what you'll find is this sort of what I call the fat, happy Buddha. In reality, Siddhartha Gautama, in his search to end the suffering says, I've got to get rid of all my desires. I don't know about you guys, but I love to eat. And one of Siddhartha Gautama's desire was food. And so I've got to rid myself of food, so to speak. So Siddhartha Gautama is not necessarily going to be the fat, happy, sassy Buddha that we always think of, but he's actually going to be a very skinny, emaciated guy because he's going to try to rid himself of food. He gets down to where he's like trying to eat one grain of rice or whatever, a bowl a day or whatever. Um, anyways, time goes on. He's going to sit under a tree and rid himself of food and a lot of other things. And while he's under the tree, a light bulb goes off, I guess, and he becomes enlightened. And he thinks that he solved the problem of suffering. And when he becomes enlightened, he becomes the Buddha. So just so you guys know, inside of Buddhism, there are three different kinds. One of the kinds of Buddhism actually worships Buddha, but many of the other types don't necessarily worship Buddha. They actually just think he's a good teacher and became the first one that was enlightened. So I know there are a lot of people that think that Buddhists actually worship Buddha, and there is a group and there is a group that does, but a lot of them just think he's a good teacher. And a lot of Buddhists actually believe that they can become a Buddha too, because the word Buddha is not necessarily this guy's name. The guy's name was Siddhartha Gautama. Buddha just simply means enlightened one. So Buddhism is actually going to teach that everybody can become a Buddha. Everybody can become enlightened. And this place where he sits under the tree is called the Bodhigaya, or it's a Bodhigaya tree. He stays there a long time. No need to write that last little piece of notes. We got a quiz that we're going to be doing. While he's under the tree, he comes up with his plan for, you might say, the world. I know how to become enlightened. He's got a 4-step plan that will lead to an 8-step plan that will then lead to 390 some odd problems, 390 some odd rules that you have to follow. It's kind of crazy, but that's just my personal opinion. Number one, there's 4 noble truths to Buddhism. Number one, suffering's a part of life and nobody can get rid of it. Unless, of course, you follow these 4 noble truths. 4 noble truth number 2, suffering comes from your desires for pleasure and your material goods. And this is why if you see Buddhists, a lot of times they're always wearing a certain type of garb. They're like in a very monotone color garb, like it's very orange. They almost look like they're in prison clothes, or it's all one kind of color. Many of them will cut off all of their hair because they're trying to not fit in with culture and society. They're trying to rid themselves of those pleasures and those desires and those material goods. Many of these Buddhists will actually go and live as Buddhist monks, meaning they're not going to be getting married. They're not going to be having a family. They're actually moved away from their family because why? They're trying to get rid of their desires. Noble truth number 3, if you can overcome these desires, you will actually get rid of suffering. Yeah, good luck with that one. And then finally, 4 noble truth number 4 is the only way you can get rid of your desires is by following this 8-step plan, which I find kind of hilarious inside of Buddhism. I found the way. There's this 4 steps, then you follow these 8 steps, and yes, if you keep going, there's in one of the forms of Buddhism, there's like 200 or 300 some odd rules that you got to follow. All right, what I'm going to do now is actually stop going over the notes. Wait, there's one more thing I can point out. There's their 8-step plan. If you follow this 8-step plan, if you rid yourselves of your desire, then you go to nirvana. It's sort of the Buddhist heaven. It's not necessarily a heaven, but for us who come from a very much a Christian background, a lot of us are they know what that means. That's kind of what the Buddhists would believe. The Buddhists believe that yes, you get born and reborn, born and reborn. They believe in reincarnation. They believe in karma, doing good things and good things will happen to you. But the only way to get out of this cycle of rebirth is to rid yourself of suffering. And if you do that, then you go to nirvana. So just thought I'd point that out there. Now I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys a video that I typically show this class, and then I will let you guys work on your quiz. So make sure you've answered the Bellringer questions. If you want to take these notes, take these notes. And make sure you also answer these quiz questions. Let's see if we can't get this video pulled up here. Oh, now how am I going to get it to you guys? Share screen. Share.
The Buddha, the Indian sage whose story inspired one of the world's great religions, Buddhism, the fourth largest religion in the world. He was the son of a king, a pampered prince who abandoned a life of pleasure to seek enlightenment.
Even Buddha himself, in order to get final enlightenment, need hard work.
It was an arduous spiritual journey.
He was eating 1 grain of rice per day. He was standing on 1 foot. He was sleeping on nails.
Meditating under the Bodhi tree, he attained the supreme wisdom.
There is no knowledge won without sacrifice. In order to gain anything, you must first lose everything.
Next, the Buddha.
His father does everything he can to never let him leave, never let him see the suffering that life is. But one day he goes outside and he's traveling through the kingdom, and he has the first of 4 encounters. He sees an old man, and he asks his attendant, and the attendant says, "Oh, that's change. One doesn't always stay young and perfect." Then, on the next tour outside, he sees a sick man and doesn't quite understand what it is. He asks his attendant, and the attendant says, "Oh, that happens to all of us."
Everybody gets sick, and don't think you are a prince, you will not get sick. Your father will get sick, your mom will get sick, everybody will become sick.
Then he sees that it isn't just the sick person. In fact, it's universal. And something is stimulated inside of him, so he keeps getting the chariot driver to take him out. And he sees, you know, horror after horror.
And on his 3rd trip outside, he meets a corpse. And he recognizes impermanence and suffering and death as the real state of things. The world that he had been protected from, shielded from, kept from seeing.
And he was shocked. You know, he was shocked, and he realized, this is my fate too. I will also become old. I will also become ill. I will also die. How do I deal with these things? These are universal questions in any human being's life. What it's like to be in a body inside of time and our fate, and how do we navigate that? It really is a tale of the transformation from a certain naive, innocent relationship to your own life to wanting to know the full story, wanting to know the full truth.
And then the 4th trip outside, he sees a spiritual seeker, someone who has decided to live a life completely other than his life in order to escape from impermanence, suffering, and death. So he has this sort of traumatic encounter with the pain and suffering of life.
29 years old, profoundly troubled, Siddhartha was determined to comprehend the nature of suffering. He resolved to leave the palace. His wife had just given birth to a baby boy. Siddhartha called him Rahula, fetter.
He names his son Fetter. He names his son Ball and Chain.
Late one summer evening, Siddhartha went into his wife's room. A lamp of scented oil lit up. His wife lay sleeping on a bed strewn with flowers, cradling their newborn son in her arms. He gazed from the threshold, deep in thought. If I take my wife's hand from my son's head and pick him up and hold him in my arms, it will be painful for me to leave. He turned away and climbed down to the palace courtyard. His beloved horse Kantaka was waiting. As he rode toward the city's northern wall, he leapt high into the air. Mara, the tempter god of desire, was waiting. You are destined, Mara told him, to rule a great empire. Go back, and worldly power will be yours. Siddhartha refused.
He left grief and probably absolute puzzlement and dismay in the hearts of wife, in the infant son who was innocent and yet was suddenly fatherless, and of course his own father. But there is no knowledge won without sacrifice. And this is one of the hard truths of human existence. In order to gain anything, you must first lose everything.
Siddhartha was alone in the world for the first time. On the bank of a nearby river, he drew his sword. Although my father and stepmother were grieving with tears on their faces, he said, I cut off my hair, I put on the yellow robes and went forth from home into homelessness. I had been wounded by the enjoyment of the world, and I had come out longing to obtain peace.
There are many different people who have given everything up and practice austerities and meditate in order to escape from the cycle of death and rebirth. The notion of reincarnation is something that's part of Indian culture, part of Indian civilization, part of Indian religion, that was there long before the Buddha. And it was in a sense, the problem that the Buddha faced.
Suffering didn't begin at birth and finish with death. Suffering was endless. Unless it was possible to find a way out, become enlightened, become a Buddha.
In his time, there was a sense of death not being final, but of death leading inexorably to rebirth, and of suffering beings bound to the wheel of death and rebirth.
It is said that Siddhartha had lived many lives before this one. As countless animals, innumerable human beings, and even gods. Across 4 incalculable ages, the sacred texts say, and many eons, experiencing life in all its different forms.
Siddhartha's previous lives, many eons, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, but then gradually, you see his practice becoming more higher and higher and deeper, deeper.
The idea is from life to life to progress more and more toward the enlightenment and become wiser and wiser.
Some beings will stubbornly insist on their ignorance and their egotism, and they will charge ahead, grabbing and eating what they can in front of themselves, and being dissatisfied, but thinking that the next bite will do it. And they will die and be reborn, die and be reborn in infinite times. It could take them, billion lifetimes if they're very stubborn,
And becoming a Buddha, becoming enlightened, is the only way of getting out of the continual cycle of death and rebirth. Now, rebirth here isn't the popular notion that, my past life I was Cleopatra floating down the Nile or Napoleon. It's as if every life is going through junior high school again, over and over and over.
All right, I show that video probably every year just because it gives you a good background into kind of how Buddhism started, and also gives you a better understanding of what these people actually believe when it comes to reincarnation. Really, junior high school over and over doesn't sound like something I want to do. I like school, don't know that I want to live junior high school over and over again. Okay, now you need to make sure you open up that PowerPoint that I've attached into Google Classroom. It's going to have these questions in here, and you should be able to answer many of them. One of the things that it kind of points out in that video also is that inside of Buddhism, they actually do believe in reincarnation. They don't agree with the caste system. So the caste system was something that existed inside of India, the different levels. I'm trying to remember where I put that caste system image. There, yeah, they believed in different levels inside of the caste system. And you had to kind of work your way up to get out of it over and over again. Well, Buddhism basically says, hey, anybody can become enlightened, anybody can escape it. And so a lot of Indians are going to like this idea because I don't have to go all these levels. I don't have to get reborn so many times, maybe. Again, I'm not trying to get you guys to believe these religions at all. I'm just trying to give you guys a better understanding of the history behind them and the cultural geography that's going to be associated with them, because they're going to have a great impact on their countries. All right, so you guys take the quiz, the open note quiz, and have a good day. Make sure you turn that in. Look forward to seeing you guys soon. Okay.